interesting speech there. Well, it's October 1st, and while the flags fly high and the anthems echo across the land, Nigerians relish the moments that have brought us far. This is very, very important. Most importantly, after hearing the president's speech there. But without further ado, I want to welcome you to Breakfast Central here on a very, very important day in Nigeria. I'm Joe Hansen. Olive is here as well.
And of course, I am Olive Emodi. Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu addressed the nation at 7 a.m. today, marking Nigeria's 65th independence anniversary. But as the broadcast fades, reactions have started to pour in from civil society, opposition parties, and everyday Nigerians. This morning, we shall be dissecting the president's speech as we seek to find out how much of it resonates with millions of Nigerians across the country and the world. Joining us for these discussions are the Chief Press Secretary to a former Lagos Governor, Habib Aruna, and Public Affairs Analyst, Dayo Akintobi. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us, and happy Independence
Day for being here.
Happy Independence Day to Nigeria.
All right, let's start off with, your general sense of the speech before we go into the details. And to sort of give us a general sense of the speech, I'm going to ask the both of you. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu said our founding heroes and heroines, and goes ahead to list a number of them. And he said they believed it was Nigeria's manifest destiny to lead the entire black race as the largest black nation of the earth. He goes ahead to say, while we may not have achieved all the lofty dreams of our forebearers, we have not strayed too far from them. Mr. Akintobi, have we strayed too far from them?
We have strayed, but I think we still march along that same path, but we are in a situation where we've not met up to the expectations of those founding fathers. And I think that their perception was that by now we'd be much further ahead than we are. And as the largest black nation, even though when Nigeria was coming out of independence, we weren't the largest, most powerful black nation in the world at that time. But I do believe that our forebears foresaw that happening, and their vision was that 65 years down the road, we'd be a world power because we have everything it takes to do that. And to look at where we are today, 65 years after, when we talk about 65 years of independence, it's not 65 years of existence. We've been existing a whole lot longer than that. And we're actually ordering our affairs, I believe, a lot better before the colonial intervention. But the moment they handed back over reins of power to us in 1960 October, I think we missed the plot in terms of the way we were organized before they came in. I think they came and disrupted our natural way of existence, and we've not recovered ever since. So I think we're a square peg in a round hole trying to fit into this Western-style democracy and do things the way those colonialists taught us to do versus our own homegrown solutions, which actually were working for us very well before the colonial interregnum. Of course, times have changed. There's enlightenment, there's education, technology has played a part, mechanization has played a part. So you can't really compare them on the same denominator, the same common denominator. But I think that some of our founding parents will be turning over in their graves today when they look at where we are. I mean, look at in Abuja just yesterday what happened with the Arise television journalist. The fact that the police could open their mouth to say they didn't have fuel in their vehicle.
In fact, we're hearing conflicting reports. We're hearing that. We're also hearing that the hospital asked for an ID to treat her as well.
All of those dysfunctions. I mean, an innocent rising life was snuffed out just like that, an avoidable death that didn't need to happen. Let's not even look at the security implications of armed robbers invading in 2025 in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, that armed robbers could be that brazen in the middle of the seat of government to actually open siege, lay siege on a housing complex that would lead to the death. So many failings. There were so many areas where the government failed that lady. Where we as a people need to look at ourselves and say, what is wrong with us? At 65, how can we still be in a situation where we don't have emergency response to be able to just address a critical situation? In Israel, nobody in the country of Israel is 1 minute away from emergency assistance. We have the means to be like that in Nigeria today, but I call it a state of arrested development. We are developing, but we're developing at snail's pace. I mean, let's be honest, there have been some victories. There have been some bright spots. Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Alhaji Lateef Jakonde, there have been some bright spots in our trajectory of 65 years. We've made some advances, but for every one step we take forward, I think we take like 3 or 4 backwards.
Okay, we'll come back to talk about the bright steps. Looking first of all broadly at our founding fathers, and then narrowing it down to the past years with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But let me also get the reaction of Mr. Habib Aruna. With the speech in general, your thoughts.
Entire speech.
Every Independence Day, there's always an opportunity for stock taking, for soul searching, for us to look at ourselves as a nation. Where are we right now? Where are we coming from? Are we where we're supposed to be? I will not totally agree with him that because of this colonial intervention, not that we are where we are today. Great nations in the world had the same experience. Except perhaps the European powers, America, India, Pakistan, Brazil, all these nations have colonial experience. But today they've been able to restructure themselves, establish enduring institutions, that are lasting and making sure that the nation is on the right trajectory. But Nigeria, we have failed so far. It's both leadership and followership, they failed. And if you look at our First Republic, when the colonialists left, when they left, there was hope. In fact, there was a day I interviewed the late Enahoro, the person that moved the mission for independence. I interviewed Enahoro at GRA, Ogunaike. Enahoro told me that when they were campaigning for independence, they're moving around the country, campaigning for independence. Then an old man told him in the then Western region, Ondo State, that, are you sure you are ready for independence? By Nahoro, of blessed memory, are you sure you are ready for independence? So if you look back to what is going on now, look at where we are in terms of education, in terms of health, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of our foreign policy. Up till now, there are no ambassadors. The government has been here for 3 years, but there are no ambassadors. How do you run an effective policy without having senior diplomats in the capitals of the world? So I think it's a day for our politicians to search their souls, for our elite to think. If you look at the elite in other countries, the elite, they've been able to put their interest as a servant to national interest. But in our country, we've not been able to have elite that are pragmatic. We have parasitic, capricious elite that are not interested in development. So I'm not to encourage. The speech is a normal routine. The president came up with what the founding fathers had hoped for. Yes, the country is one. Thank God for that. But being one and united, you can be pumping champagne when things are very, very bad.
But let's now focus on some aspects of this speech. The president, while talking about a lot of things, he started off with education. And it seems like the entire 30-minute stretch was mixed with a lot of statistics, percentages here and there, things that have been done. Do you think, as an average Nigerian, would a Nigerian wake up in the morning to watch the president? Do you think they would have been filled with hope after listening to that speech? And with so much percentages, numbers flying here and there in terms of what has been done, monies the country has been able to save, the impact and so on, do you think personally that these numbers are what the average Nigerian wants to hear this morning?
The president, if you look at it very well, at the initial stage of his speech, was comparing the numbers of primary and secondary schools before the public to what we have now. Well, partially, there have been progress in that regard. But I was thinking that the president will tie education advancement to technological advancement. If you look at the League of Nations that got independence with Nigeria, look at Singapore. Look at Malaysia. Look at India. And these countries are up there now. What are we doing? You know, for Nigerians, even a casual observer will not be too impressed with what the president has said. But as a leader of the country, the president has a duty, you know, to reinforce that hope. That is what the man is doing. And I think it should be appreciated. The fact that, yes, we have a country that is still united. We're not there yet, but there's the hope that we get there. The process is on.
Okay. I don't know what your thoughts are, especially on that question.
Well, I thought the speech sounded more like a State of the Union address. I think an Independence Day speech should be a little more broad in terms of history and vision. He started on the right note by harking back to our founding fathers and naming a good number of them. But I think that he was a bit too heavy on what he considered to be the individual achievements of his administration. I don't think this should have been a time to trumpet or champion the achievements, the quote-unquote achievements, especially when those achievements have not translated to meaningful gains on the street. As a journalist, I live on the streets of Nigeria. I interact with everyday Nigerians on a daily basis. And all those statistics, as highfalutin and really robust as they sound, they are meaningless on the streets of Nigeria today because the average working class Nigerian is still having it very, very difficult. Now, I agree with what Mr. Aruna said, that such a speech is an opportunity to encourage us, to give us hope. And you know that the mantra of this administration has been renewed hope. So the president did use the speech as a means to try to encourage us and tell us to continue to be patient. He said he has always said that he knows we're going through hard times, but the contradiction with that is that we don't see our political class making the same sacrifices they're asking us to make. I saw a video a couple of days ago of the president's convoy when he came back from Ibadan to Lagos, and how it disrupted traffic in Lagos and how long that convoy was and how many vehicles were in it. Granted, he needs to be kept secure, but there are some things that are over the top and ostentatious, and our political class is not making the sacrifices it's asking Nigerians to make. So when you listen to all these highfalutin statistics, as someone said before, now statistics we go chop, it doesn't translate to food on our table.
Okay, we'll come to talk about, I mean, while you talk about the statistics and how it translates to the everyday Nigerian, I want us to come and talk about the vulnerable Nigerians, the 330 billion naira that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu spoke about. But we'll go on a break, and when we come back, we'll be looking deeper into the conversation. Please stay with us. Still analyzing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's 2025 Independence Day speech, joined by Mr. Habib Aruna and Mr. Dayo Akintobi. Thank you very much for joining us, gentlemen. Before we went on the break, I said we're going to look at the 330 billion naira that the president said has, been used to disburse funds to about 8 million households in Nigeria. Whenever we hear about these monies, there's a bit of distrust and mistrust that arises as a result. First of all, from you, I don't know if I personally don't know anyone who's received. I don't know if you know anyone or persons or families that have received. Maybe we don't have people within that bracket. I don't know. But what mechanisms do you think should or have been put in place to avoid issues like ghost beneficiaries? And with a country that has about 133 million multidimensionally poor people, how do we ensure that this actually has tangible impact? Maybe I'll start with Mr. Akintobi and then I'll come over to you.
Well, the first thing that makes one a bit hesitant is, how do you define a vulnerable or needy Nigerian individual? How do you compile that social register and make sure it's accurate, make sure that it doesn't have ghost members inside? And then when you've already even screened and shortlisted, how does the disbursement now work? Remember, this was how Betta Edu and the lady before her all got into trouble. It had to do with this notion of doling out money. Whenever there's an issue of largesse being given, there's always a specter of corruption coming in, especially in our country. And that has always given rise to distrust. As you said, I'm not aware of any Nigerian who has received any of this money, but that could be that because We are in slightly different economic brackets, who knows? But by and large, if you ask any Nigerian on the street, do you trust in this process that they are giving money out? What you hear is, it's all political. They're giving to the children of their friends. They are political people, or they are using it to siphon funds, and they're not actually doing this, because 330 billion is a lot of money. And the way the disbursements work, the most vulnerable Nigerians are largely the unbanked, largely. So it's not as if you can do transfers and there is a digital trail of how the money flowed. So by and large, they're probably going to the central bank, taking bullion van loads of raw cash and going into the hinterland to sit and count 1,000 naira in so many places and hand out to each person. It's fraught with the specter of mismanagement. And that probably is why we take with a grain of salt the fact that 330 billion. What impact has the 330 billion had on the so-called recipients? Do you see improvement in the lives of our vulnerable, those of our people who are less privileged, who don't have health care, who don't have education, farmers who can't go to their farms? What if the 330 billion actually served the purpose for which it was intended and got to the actual proper recipients? We should see a bit of a difference in the lives of our vulnerable. And I dare say, I don't think their lot is getting any better as we speak.
I don't know if everyone has received
I don't particularly belong to that kind of class. But when I share sentiments on this matter. When I listen to these bogus numbers and figures, I have to pitch myself, am I in Nigeria? Because don't forget that the lady that served as humanitarian minister under the late Buhari, the lady is still being investigated by EFCC. So the process, the mechanism, the qualification, everything is shrouded in secrecy. There is no transparency in the way and manner these figures are disbursed. How do you qualify for it? Who are the beneficiaries? And I can't find them. And if people like us cannot find them, then who are they? Are they ghosts? Are they spirit? So this thing is not, to me, it's another way of embezzling funds, mismanaging the resources of the country. Don't forget that after the woman was removed, Professor Shibajo became the person in charge, and he was later removed by, in quotes, the cabal and the Buhari presidency. So this kind of amount, when you mention it, don't like test fund. I've not seen the beneficiary of test fund. I'm still waiting. Maybe Mr. Dayo can tell us one or two. I've not seen it. So when there is no transparency, when there is no accountability, when people that are supposed to ask questions at the National Assembly are busy following the president up and down, then we have problem. This kind of thing should be transparent. If it's transparent and people that are in charge are people that have enough credibility, that will ensure that yes, we can believe in it, we can trust that yes, that nothing has been done. But in this regard, I don't seem to believe it, and I think the figures are bogus. It's not convincing, Not convincing at all.
We'll see that, at 65, Nigeria's democracy is still struggling with weak institutions and corruption. And you can't have that and then talk about a thriving democracy. Do you think that this speech adequately addressed institutional reforms, or was it focused mainly squarely on the economy? Do you think that it spoke to, corruption, the weak institutions, and, how we can further strengthen our democracy?
You see, what is killing this country is three things. One is corruption. Second one is corruption. And third one is corruption.
But the president said that corruption is...
My personal opinion. My personal opinion. And I'm 4 years younger than this country. So I should know the major problem we have. When this guy came here one time, Odenga, the president of Kenya, the guy was saying that in some countries, when they give contracts, the government officials will collect 10%. But in Nigeria, they collect 90%. He said it openly. What is killing us is corruption. Let me give you an instance about institutions. When Absalami took over and Abacha died, General Ahigbe was the deputy to Absalami. General Ahigbe invited senior journalist, Professor Smith in VI. And Ahigbe was telling them implicitly that we are in a mission to install, that the military is involved, is interested in this transition. In other words, want to install General Obasanjo, retired. And we believe that Obasanjo can be our own Mandela. And by so doing, according to him, they want to make sure that we build institutions. Obasanjo had history, the capacity, he had the experience, and he had the clout to put Nigeria on the right course, on a sound footing for development and growth. Obasanjo became the president. What happened? Obasanjo was not interested in building institutions. It's a major problem. Advanced countries in the world, they have problem. It's normal in their course of developing. There will be landmines on road development. But there are institutions in those countries that guard against human beings that are too powerful. Those countries invent themselves in the process of development because there are some institutions. So our major problem as a nation at 65, because we don't have viable, we don't have enduring institutions, that protect the country and secure its future. We don't have those things. So it's the major and something we must address as a nation, because we are still falling short in that. Nigeria must develop institutions. That's why we protect our democracy. We protect our country, as against any marauders. So it's a problem we are facing and we continue to face, except we are determined. We make that deliberate effort and build and nurture our institutions. Very key to our future.
Very tough one in trying to merge between what is happening on ground and what the president had said, especially in the aspect of realities. But you also talked about permit me to still stick on the funds, the transfers that have been given to people. You've talked about those who merit, who deserve to receive these funds. Obviously, it's also highlighted that these are the poorest of the poor. But do you think that doling out these funds is necessary at this point, looking at the fact that Nigerians are still struggling to even survive, basically? And one aspect I want us to also look at in this speech is where the president had also said, I talked about credit core. That's another one where he did mention that 153,000 Nigerians have benefited, over 30 billion as well. Are we seeing too much money in the system going around?
One of the things I thought about in terms of following NEL Fund and Credit Core is they seem to be doling out the money quite generously. And I keep asking, are there plans put in place to recover the money? Because the average Nigerian student that's collecting NEL Fund is seeing it as a grant. They're not really believing that one day I'll have to pay this money back. And I see the reports from NEL Fund, how much was disbursed to a particular university on a given day, and they're not cutting corners or holding anything back in terms of pushing the money out. And I just worry that is the mechanism in place to make sure the money will come back. And when you talk about going back to that 330 billion in terms of the vulnerable, and should that kind of money be given out at this point in time, I've never believed in palliatives as a means to lifting anybody out of poverty. It's a one-time, one-off, solve your immediate problem, but it's not a long-term solution. So that money probably could have been better spent if it was invested in teaching them how to fish so they can feed themselves for life, as opposed to feeding them for a day and then tomorrow they're hungry again. So I'm not sure that palliatives represent a means of changing the fortunes of the less privileged. So even those who received the money, if they did receive it, they're probably hungry again today already and have nowhere to turn. So how have they benefited?
I mean, he said they've received it. He said in his speech, in a sentence, he said either 1 or 2 times in the trenches, they've received 5,000 naira.
And what does that do in Nigeria of today? when you know what the price of a bag of rice, a bag of beans, even just transportation from one place to the other, we know what it costs. So 5,000, even in the rural areas, 5,000 doesn't go very far these days. And whether you got it once or you got it twice, you're still hungry after a month or two. So I'm not sure it's the most appropriate intervention in terms of economic relief or in terms of trying to empower the people and take them out of poverty. I believe this administration at the onset said one of its goals was to remove a certain number of Nigerians out of poverty within so many years, and I don't really see any concerted efforts to making that happen per se. I'll go back to it again and say that the speech was supposed to electrify minds and galvanize hearts into believing that a better Nigeria is around the corner. It now seems to be hollow words because we've been hearing this for the last 2.5 years, 28 months, and with each passing day, the statistics are reeled out that paint a lofty picture, but the reality on ground is very, very different.
Okay, I want us to talk about security as that's a very key issue and area to explore. I'm going to read an excerpt from the president's speech. He talked about the officers and men of our armed forces and other security agencies are working tirelessly and making significant sacrifices to keep us safe. He says they are winning the war against terrorism, banditry, and other violent crimes. We see their victories in their blood and sweat to stamp out Boko Haram terror in Northeast, IPOB ESN terror in Southeast, and banditry and kidnapping. We must continue to celebrate their gallantry and salute their courage on behalf of a grateful nation. Peace has returned to hundreds of our liberated communities in Northwest and Northeast, and thousands of our people have returned safely to their homes. Mr. Akintobi, do you agree with this?
No, I don't. I don't think Nigeria will agree with the fact that Nigeria is at peace today or that insecurity has reduced. On a daily basis, we keep hearing about more and more incidents. Yesterday, it was, of course, the incident in Abuja. A few days before that, it was Zamfara. A few days before that, it was Benue. Then there's Katsina and Kwara. Kwara was really terrible. I saw a woman on a video yesterday crying about her husband. Kwara was really, really bad. And the worrisome part is that Kwara is coming to the south. Yeah. Kwara is the beginning of the south of Nigeria. So they've spread themselves all across the north. It looks like now they're moving southward because I think there have been some incidents in Benin as well in the recent past. So it seems like all of Nigeria is vulnerable at this point in time, and this insecurity is not something new. We've been battling Boko Haram since the days of President Jonathan, and you would ask yourself that, why is this thing so difficult to arrest in terms of an entire government, the coercive apparatus of government that resides in the military, the army, the air force, the navy, the paramilitary forces, the police? How can it be impossible for them to have arrested this scourge in 15, 20 years? It boggles my mind that a ragtag group of disorganized people can overwhelm or be superior to our trained, funded, and adequately motivated fighting forces.
Are they really adequately motivated?
Well,
because they're also concerned. There's another video, there are videos here and there. Some would also say it's an old video.
Yes.
But we've seen members of the security forces come out to say they are poorly paid. Some have highlighted the fact that the conditions in which they are, in order to just protect lives and properties, is very difficult. The police recently protested. I was thinking the president will also address that. Many thought it would be one of the things he would address. That the police, we know security operatives, we're going to look into your wages to ensure that you earn more. But that wasn't mentioned. Rather, the president mentioned the local government, which always is a reference point to any of the conversations around the economy. They say the governors have more money. And the president said that today as well, that the governors have more money. But let's take Lagos, for instance, a ₦1 trillion economy in terms of its GDP, internal generated revenue. And other governors, are we seeing that governors having more money trickle down to its citizens, Mr. Aruna?
On the issue of insecurity,
Yeah.
I will not give the government below 50%. I'll give the government maybe 60%. If you are not there, you won't know what is going on. You know what they are facing. I think the president is doing his best to ensure Nigeria have a secured country. But More needs to be done in Zamfara State, in Plateau State, Benue, and Niger. More needs to be done. But some of these things are political. If you scratch the surface, some of it are political. But I think they're doing it. They're doing their best. Then on the money available to governors and local government chairmen, local government chairmen are still under the use and crack prices of the governor. They are not independent.
I thought the president would address that as
They
well.
cannot be dependent on the current structure we have. They cannot. The president is saying that the state government are collecting more money. Before we are collecting 4 billion, now you are collecting 9 billion. They have enough money to spend, right, to work, to take care of people's welfare, education, infrastructure, roads, security. Are they doing that? No. And can the president control them? No. Because we have 2037 elections in the front. After that election, I can bet on it. The president will control them. We call them to order. How much are you spending? Why people still suffering? These are the things. But now we have money. Look at the governor of Ebonyi State.
So which election, just to clarify, which election are you speaking about?
Pardon?
You said we have elections. Which of the elections are you talking about?
2027.
And you say after that the president will go into
After that election, you can see that the president will be more assertive in asking questions.
This is you just already concluding that the president has won
I'm a political writer. The president cannot, president is handicapped in asking questions now on enforcing.
Why?
Because of the next election.
He needs them.
The state governors are very, very powerful in this kind of situation because of peculiarity, the nature and character of Nigerian politics. They're very powerful. They can make or mark. Go ask Jonathan. What about Jonathan? So these are the things. So the president is being circumspect and smart. Okay, you have more money, spend it. Every time you collect to Rock, you're not spending this money. People are not feeling it. They're collecting more money from the federal government. I was thinking that you translate to bread and butter for Nigerians. So if you're blaming the federal government, at times we should tarry a while and look at the state government, what they are doing. State governors and emperors. Nobody asks them questions. And how in the democracy, you'll be accountable and responsible to the people through the assembly. But in the states, that's not the case. So if the money is coming in, how is the money spent? Rather, we are seeing them building, renewing their government houses, building airports that are not something that are, for now, they do not benefit the people. So these are the things we must look at. As a nation, as I said, we must have institutions. In the First Republic, we have strong institutions. We can't just mess up. Second Republic, largely better. Because in some states, we have a party controlling the executive, another party controlling the legislature. But in Nigeria of today, the same party control the organs of government, and that will be to the detriment of the people.
Okay, just to also go back, I want to go back to the question about insecurity. And I've asked you this question, I think, during the week when we're having the newspaper review. I want to bring Mr. Akintobi on it. Over the weekend, Ryan Garcia, a professional American boxer, had taken to his Instagram to offer help to Nigerian Christians who are purportedly being killed by killings. I'm going to quote it. He says, "Does anyone know how I can help the people of Nigeria? Christians are getting slaughtered and eradicated at crazy numbers. If you haven't heard about it, go look it up. As Christians and just humans, we need to try and help," he added in the post. And, you know, this had a lot of reactions. There have been the back and forth, and that has now sparked the conversation about, that was, one. But recently, there's been a lot more conversations about the possibility of religious genocide or not. And I wanted to get your take on it. Is that a proper conversation to have? Do we have adequate facts and data to inform us of whether or not there is a genocide of Christians in Nigeria?
This whole thing started by an American broadcaster named Bill Maher, who came out and on one of his shows said that there was systematic slaughtering of Christians in Nigeria. And of course, as you would imagine, that created a lot of uproar because he's viewed as a credible journalist. So a lot of people accepted what he said on face value. However, in reviewing what has happened in Nigeria in terms of our insecurity in the last 15, 20 years, I don't think bandits, terrorists, kidnappers, I don't think they've been discriminating as to who they're victimizing. They equally go in churches, they go in mosques, they pick people up on the expressway. I don't think at the point of interdiction, they start asking you what religion you are. I think that as far as they're concerned, when they're on an operation, whoever is in their path is a potential victim. For the kidnappers, it's all about economic reward, who can afford to pay the ransom or have the ransom paid on their behalf. And for Boko Haram, if it is this notion of a repudiation of Western education and we want everyone to conform to our ideology, I think that they spread their net as wide as they can and they don't discriminate among their victims. So I think it's more of propaganda and perhaps for political purposes in terms of trying to make it seem like there's a genocide at play here. That serves to fragment us and cause division. We're already a divided nation, politically and otherwise. And when this type of rhetoric starts to gain ground, it further creates greater division when you look like the religions are at war with each other. When it says that Christians are being specifically targeted in some areas of the country. Look at southern Kaduna, for example, which is known to be very, very Christian and strongly so. And you see instances of terrorism occurring in that area. And even if it is a coincidence, simply because that place is more largely populated by Christians and that is where the operation was carried out, so naturally, based on the numbers, more Christians will be affected there. But likewise, when they go to Zamfara, which is more Muslim or almost completely Muslim, and carry out an operation there, the victims will be Muslim. So it's all in the statistics and how you interpret them. But I will not agree with the fact that there is a concerted, active, focused, systematic onslaught of Christians in Nigeria. That's not to say Christians have not been affected, but I think everybody across the board, irrespective of religion, is just as vulnerable.
All right. Let's now connect with our correspondent. If you're just joining in, the president, of course, did give his Independence Day speech for 2025 this morning at 7 a.m. And our State House correspondent, Bettina Nweli, will be on standby to give us a recap of this speech. And after that, we'll come back to speak some more about it. Good morning, Bettina. How is the state capital this morning?
Good morning, Ole. Thank you so much. And happy Independence Day to everyone in the studio. We've heard from the president this morning, and I have 6 key takeaway points that I want to share with the team regarding what the president said during his speech. Now, first of all, he talked about economic recovery. Now, according to the president, our GDP has grown by 4.23% in the second quarter of 2025. Now, according to him, he says this is the fastest in the last 4 years, while inflation has dropped to 20.12%. I would love to visit the street to talk to people to find out if truly this inflation decrease has affected their pockets and their homes generally. But the second point he made was on foreign reserves and trade. Now, according to the president as well, he says that reserves have risen from $42.03 billion, I beg your pardon, and Nigeria recorded a trade surplus of 5 straight quarters, with non-oil exports reaching 48% of total exports. Another thing he also touched on was on oil and gas. He said oil output rebounded from 1.68 million barrels per day. Domestic PMS refining resumed after 40 years. We can testify to that. And that Nigeria also became Africa's leading exporter of aviation fuel. That is another aspect too that we would have to also look into. Another thing he spoke about was social investments. Now, over $330 billion have been disbursed to 8 million vulnerable households. Now, whenever we talk about this, people are always of the question that, oh, I didn't get anything, and I also think I'm a vulnerable person living in Nigeria. But we'll continue to look into that, because when they say that they have shared this amount of money to vulnerable households, one cannot but question, where are these households? Who are these people? How are they receiving this money? Over and over, we keep hearing about this money being disbursed, but we've never really seen anyone who would come out and take accountability to say, okay, yes, I was a beneficiary of such disbursement. He also spoke about security. He spoke about security progress. According to the president, armed forces have regained territories, restoring peace to parts of the northeast and northwest. But just a few days or weeks ago, we heard about a situation that happened in Benue State, where a school had an explosion and a couple of people are still missing. We're still following up on that story. Even though I could say that security is a bit better, but there's more that the government can do in terms of security. We hear about people, being robbed in their homes and being killed. This is something that shouldn't happen in a sane nation. Last but not the least, the president also gave a message of hope, declaring that the worst is over. So I want to believe that going forward, it's going to be all cherries and nothing gloomy.
Very interesting roundup there from you, Bettina Whaley. And I would have loved to ask what Abuja is like not having the president and not having the all-important October 1 ceremony. Can you quickly, in just 10 seconds, because we have a break to catch, can you tell us what the residents are saying, the people in Abuja are saying, because they were expecting a match pass and all that, but it never happened. Can you tell us?
Okay, well, first of all, people are talking about the absence of the president in Abuja, the seat of power. For years, we haven't seen any president celebrate the Independence Day outside of Abuja, but this time around, the president says that he wanted a low-key celebration. They had drawn out a list of activities that will be done, but at last minute, it was cancelled. And as you can see, the town is peaceful, business as usual. There is really no difference, apart from barricades they have made in certain points from the Villa down to the Eagle Square, no passage through all of that route. But other than that, everything is calm as usual.
All right, we can see everything is calm as usual because even it's bright and sunny where you are in Abuja, and we here had to swim to work. So happy Independence Day, happy New Month, Bettina. Thank you for that roundup.
Same.
All right, we'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we still will be analyzing the president's speech this morning. Once again, happy Independence Day, Nigeria.
Thanks for staying with us here on our special broadcast here on News Central's Breakfast Central. We're taking a look at Nigeria at 65. We do have the distinguished guests who are still here with us, seasoned, you could say, journalists, and of course, analysts who are here to talk about the president's speech. In case you missed the president's speech, a lot was said. You can hurry up to our website and you'd see all of that, but we've been analyzing it from one break to the other. And the gentlemen are still here with us. Later on, we'll also be joining Olive. But let's quickly go to our reporter, who is at a very critical, I'd say, important place, which you cannot take away when it comes to history and Nigeria getting to where it is today. Thank you so much for joining us. It's quite interesting to note that behind you, there's a writing, and I hope that you could pan later on while you're talking to us. We do have our correspondent who's joining us from Kogi State. Kogi is a significant place, and Nigerians will find out why. Go ahead, Mana, and tell us what's going on there in Kogi. And I can see your old smiles. Go ahead.
All right. Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Olive, and to our guests in the studio. Happy Independence Day to all Nigerians watching. Well, 1,503 feet above sea level, and this is Mount Party in Lokoja, Kogi State. And just behind me, you can see the rest house of Lord Lugard. The inscription on the building says Lord Lugard Rest House. And just by the side, if you can see, is a statue of Lord Lugard and his beloved wife, Flora Shaw, the London journalist of the Times of London. And do recall that she is the lady that coined the word Niger area, putting it together to form Nigeria. Now, just in front of me, I may not be able to pan right now. Of course, the vegetation, the trees are covering the view to actually see the River Niger itself and just a beautiful shot of the entire city of Lokoja. This is a very historic place. This is where Lord Lugard will climb up, that's down from the bottom of the mountain and come up to Mount Party to view the city. And of course, some of his administrative work was done from here. Just let me just pan the camera a bit. Behind me, when you move forward, you can see that there is a road path, almost 60 steps. If you move forward, is a broadcast center. Well, the place is, it is not a place to behold right now because over the years, the building has deteriorated. There is a broadcast center where the audio visuals was communicated to the Queen of England. So from there, Lugard would rest here and then go there to speak with the Queen of England. And of course, Lord Lugard is the first High Commissioner for Northern Nigeria before it was moved to Kaduna. The capital was moved to Kaduna. So Mount Patti holds a very special place in terms of the history of Nigeria. And from this mountain, you can actually go down to the present-day government house in Lokoja. There is a path, but that path, we can't go there. It's just some distance away from where I am. From that particular point of this mountain, you can get down to the government house in Lokoja. Also, you would recall there was a prison back in the day where some of the deposed emirs of the north were captured. Their graves are still there today. And from this mountain, you can actually get to Kabawa community right here in the state capital. And from this mountain, there is a path that links to that particular place. So this mountain holds a whole lot of significance, and it is just amazing. It's a beautiful sight to behold. Joe, Olive, anytime you guys are in Kogi State or Lokoja, you should come up here. It's so beautiful. Very early this morning, as the custom is for residents in Lokoja, many of them, they jog up to the mountain, to exercise. And also, earlier I spoke with some residents and also tourists who came here. They actually entered into the building. I think I will just walk closely to where the building is so we can have a closer look at Lugard's rest house. The building itself is not opened right now, but I'm just trying to make my way. It's bushy right here, but I think I will just pan the camera so that you can see the entrance to Lugard house. So I think, yes, this is the entrance. This is a refurbished building. In the process of rebuilding this particular relic, the state government ensured that they used local materials. As you can see closely, stones were used to recreate the building to look exactly like how it was back in the day. So this is just a close look. So you can see the inscription there. It says Lugard Rest House. Then just beside the building is a statue. I hope I can give you a very good close-up of what it looks like. So just behind me, okay, let's see if I can do this right. Yeah, so that's a closer look at Lord Lugard and his wife, Flora Shaw. So they would come out and hand out, they used to be boyfriend. I mean, they had a relationship before he officially married her. But that's like that, Joe. This is the particular place where Flora Shaw, the London journalist of the Times of London, was inspired to coin the word Nigeria. And this is very significant because there's a lot of reactions as to who we are as a country, our identity as a nation. And a lot of people attribute the amalgamation of the Southern and Northern Protectorate as the foundation of some of the structural issues and problems that we have as a nation. So this is where it all started. And I know a lot of Nigerians are still indifferent. Some people feel we were better separate together. But of course, that particular decision by the British government still affects us still today. Back to you, Joe.
I want to say thank you so much, Mana Balagbubo, for this very interesting coverage, taking us back to exactly where it all started from. Coincidentally, while you were speaking, I was almost thinking that you could have coined the speech for the president, because you really did take us back into history and highlighting some of the key aspects that would actually give Nigerians a sense of belonging and possibly hope as well. But we'll get back to you, hopefully in the course of our broadcast. Thanks for joining us, and ensure that you take more footage, and you could also join the others in jogging while we'll get back to you later on. Thanks for speaking with us, Mana.
You're welcome. I'll try to do that.
Absolutely. Well, before we go to our guests here and also get to join Olive, who's also going to be talking to another political personality, let's quickly see how Nigerians are reacting to that presidential speech that took place this morning. Truth be told, 001 says, This so-called independence speech from Tinubu is just recycled propaganda. Really? Well, that's what he says. 4.23% GDP growth. Where's the food on our tables? Inflation at 20% is still choking us. And no live question and answer. Shaking my head. More like a dictator's monologue, truth be told. Anyway, let's see some more. Bring all the independence speeches from 1961 to date, and you will easily see that they are the same story. Very unfortunate country. Well, I don't really agree with that. A beautiful country called Nigeria, but led by political corrupt criminals. What a bad luck to the citizens of Nigeria. Shame, shame, shame. I'm hoping we'll get to see one positive response, because we've been combing the entire space of eggs. And Bayo says, Bayo, I'm still trying to figure out these humongous amount of about 330 billion. Now that's the highlight of the speech, I want to believe. Said to be spent on 8 million or so persons. Can't we get the detailed official publication of who these people are? This is a question we've discussed this morning in the studio. We do not know if you are one of those. And let's take one more before we go straight to the conversation. Bayo, tell Baba to share that 20 trillion generated from that oil sector to every Nigerians. We don't want any project any longer. Just share, make everybody collect their own share. That's all. Kawaii. That's all on what Nigerians are saying so far. We'll bring you some more. Our producers are combing the internet, and I can tell you I'm doing the same right here. Positive in terms of how Nigerians are reacting to what the president has said. If we're going to peg it between 1 to 10, we'll say the positives are slightly just 2.5, so 2.5. The remaining 7.5 Nigerians on X, the social media space, are saying they are not impressed with that speech because it did not highlight anything. I'm going to go straight to, let's just do a rating. How would you rate the president's speech from 1 to 10? And can you give reasons when you pick a number?
Yes, I would give him about a 3.5 because I think the entire purpose, if you look at the whole 2025 Independence Day symbolic meaningfulness, from the fact that the parade was cancelled, to the fact that the president is not in Abuja, the seat of the capital, to his speech, if you look at all three of them together, you would say that Nigeria, let me put it this way, the feature we just saw of Lord Lugard's residence in Kogi State, I would say is a metaphor for Nigeria's dysfunction. You look at that place and its historical significance, and it's not been made into a monument that can serve for archival purposes, historical purposes, and even tourism. You would expect that either the state or the federal government would have developed that place and would preserve it as a memento of our history and where we came from and who we are today. Lord Lugard played a significant role in the amalgamation that led to who Nigeria is today. And you look at where all this was figured out and put on paper in its dilapidated state, and it kind of harkens me to where Nigeria is today. That's why I say it's a good metaphor. And when I look at what surrounds this particular independence, why I said 3.5 to the president, I'm not happy with the fact that the Independence Day parade was cancelled. They didn't give a reason.
Correct.
I know that in the past we've cancelled it before for security concerns. But in this particular instance, they didn't say it was for security. They didn't give us a reason. They just cancelled it. Now that parade is an opportunity for social cohesion. It's a time when we all come together. We're no longer APC, PDP. We're not Muslim. We're not Christian. We're not Arsenal or Chelsea fans. We are all Nigerians.
Correct.
And at that moment, it's national pride,
Correct.
it's patriotism. You see Nigeria at its best, the military parade, the salutes, Correct. The releasing of the doves, Correct. You know, the salute, the march past, students come out, the military comes out. So that is an opportunity where we all unify around a cause. And at that one moment, we're all Nigerians. We put aside our differences. So for it not to have happened for a concrete reason, there might be a concrete reason, but we were not told. For it not to have happened, it leaves a bit of a vacuum, an emptiness in us, that this was an opportunity. That to me is what will really renew our optimism. Right. That would have been an opportunity to really give us this renewed hope. And we let that opportunity slip through our fingers. Then the president not being in Abuja on such a historic, momentous occasion. this president seems to want to do things his own way and eschew tradition. Look, for example, he hasn't been to Onga the last 2 times, which President Buhari in his whole 8 years went every single time. This president, I felt like, well, I can delegate the responsibility. I'm not going to go, and he didn't go. My colleague, Mr. Aruna, was talking while we were on a break about how this president unilaterally changed the national anthem without consultation. And you ask yourself that he's marching to the beat of his own drummer. He's not following precedent or tradition.
I'm going to just pause just a little bit in this conversation.
Yes.
We'll go on a quick break. When we come back,
okay.
I'll just also allow Mr. Aruna to share his thoughts and his ratings as well. 3.5.
3.5.
Let's see what Nigerians will continue to say as well. We'll go on a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay with us. It's Breakfast Central. Welcome back and thanks for joining us on this special broadcast here on Breakfast Central, taking a look at October 1st, Nigeria's independence presidential speech and the analysis that indeed does follow. Nigerians are not in any way really pleased with the president's speech. Just taking a look at that using our internal database, we can rightly say that there seems to be a cross-section of Nigerians who may be pleased, but the percentage is very, very little. But we'll keep looking at it. But earlier on, Mr. Akintobi, who's our in-house guest, had talked about scoring the presidential speech, 3.5 over 10. Let's go to Mr. Aruna. How would you score the presidential speech? And what would you say about Nigerians' reaction to that?
Well, as a journalist, I will score the president 50% for the speech. Because we have to look at the president's speech to the context of the realities on ground. Those realities are not good enough. They are not too palatable. Johansson, palatable at all. Well, first of all, let me appreciate your reporter that displayed, that show us what is going on in Kogi State.
Kogi State, manner.
The symbolism cannot be lost in all of us. You know, that was where Nigeria was made. It is unfortunate that nothing was nowhere kept for decades. If you go to Washington, D.C., the last farewell address of George Washington to the American people, more than 200 years ago, is still there in the glass. You will see it. That was a classic address by the first U.S. president, George Washington. It's still there. But Nigeria, how many years down the line, we've not been able to keep our history. If you cannot keep your history, you cannot shape your future. So what we have seen is, look at the state of that building. We saw that man, the guy that was in charge of amalgamating the country, the South and the North, and his girlfriend that named this country Nigeria. Our children don't even know what is going on. We are opportune to know it because we went to public schools. Most of our children today are not aware of what is going on. That the first capital of Nigeria was Lokoja. And that was where Lord Lugard signed the amalgamation of Nigeria. They are not aware of our history. You know, so if you look at that, if you look at it from 1960, you know, till now, look at the interregnum of the military that took us backward. Look at when the civilian came in. Even when the civilian came in 1999, you know, we still have the relics of the military. If you look at the way, look at cabinet chamber in Abuja, in Aso Rock, look at where the president will sit. Then then check the state government. The capital is Nigeria. Even in Lagos, the governor will sit as a king, not like the president in Abuja. Then look at it, just suppose it with other countries. What do you have in UK? What do you have in America? The president will sit down with his cabinet on the same table. There's no high horse. So those are the list that we took, not to enviable from our military past. But I am not surprised that if you aggregate the comments of Nigerians on this speech, it will not be good enough. Because they themselves know, even politicians know that we are not where we are supposed to be. You know, are we heading there? I don't know. I have a different opinion. You know, are things being put in place to make sure we are there? That is debatable. But as on step that this president took on the economy, that to me, very good. Look at the exchange rate, look at the stock exchange. People are raping billions from their shares. Look at the removal of subsidy. Yes, painful, but something that we need to do. It's a tonic that needs to be to give to Nigerians. So I won't say these are good, but I think we are getting there.
All right.
All
right. I want to say thank you so much, Mr. Akintobi, and also Mr. Aruna, for joining us this morning.